Did you have fun watching that game? That was a little depressing to watch.
Yeah, the first part, Arkansas has gotten off to three good starts in these games. What was it, 10-2, 11-2, and 28-16 or something like that, and then led again in the second half, 52-44, I think, or some such score. And they can't finish them off. And I said Calcagney. Remember him, Ron Calcagney?
Yes.
John Calipari said afterwards, "I'm not cracking. Let's keep going." Remember, he was 0-6 at UMass one time. I think 88, 89. It's been a long time ago, but he has been here before. So it's funny, that Mike White calls this the new SEC with its frightening athleticism. And Matt, you would have loved playing against those guys last night, wouldn't you? They blocked 11 shots. Arkansas blocked 6. A lot of the game was above the rim, so I guess it's fun to watch for somebody.
There was a lot of athletes out there, but there wasn't a lot of basketball players out there.
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're just keep learning, keep watching film, keep hitting shots, because Grant, you got to think that if you most of the time you have one of the most athletic teams, like eventually they figure it out, right?
That's funny. I was talking to Mike Irwin after the game, and we were talking about how it just seems to us that Arkansas is circled by everybody. Even though Arkansas is struggling this year, it's been a team that's been pretty good through the years, and Calipari has been very good through the years. So, you don't get anybody's slack effort. I mean, last night they called it two desperate teams, and the LSU was for sure. I mean, and they've got this Cam Carter who came from Kansas State. He scored 27. They got Collins who could jump out of the gym, and but I mean, I know a lot of people are going to look at the 26 out of 28 or something for LSU and 11 out of 13 for Arkansas from the free throw line. But to me, the more aggressive team gets to the free throw line, Matt. And I tell you what, I think what turned the game was the
7-point play by Brazil when he turned the ball over. They went down and got a dunk, and then the very next time down, he comes to hit a screen, gets a flagrant. They hit 2 free throws. Then they get the ball out and they hit a 3-pointer. It was a 7-point swing, and you're exactly right.
That flagrant was bogus, though.
I think the
yes.
flagrant foul, in the sense that you would have thought that would have fired Arkansas up and made them mad. And instead, it seemed to have the opposite effect. I think it fired LSU up, and Arkansas shrunk from it a little bit. And then they of course, they got their own flagrant foul, which probably wasn't one, but they had to call it because of the other one, right? I mean, it wasn't quite.
Oh, you're talking about the first one on LSU that it kind of, and then Brazil.
I think the one you would have thought would have hurt LSU, which it did in the immediate aftermath. But I think from that moment on, they just seemed to be the more aggressive team. And, of course, their fans got into it. But, when you were up 28-16, you had a chance to control the game and keep the fans out of it. And instead, the opposite happened.
Why does it seem like Boogie, it's almost like a quarterback when a team's down like 13 and it's, there's 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and he takes them down and drive. He takes them on a 70-yard drive and scores and looks great. When we're down at the end of the game, it seems like Boogie looks great. He goes on his little spurts. I don't know if it's just attention to detail, if it's you feel the heat of the moment that, hey, we got to do something. But he does seem like he has spurts late in the game where he plays really good.
Yeah, he scored 10 straight points, 10 straight of Arkansas's points. But then after that, I think he missed 2 or 3 more driving layups, and he shot an air ball 3. And, I think that's playing 38 minutes at a high level. I think it probably got to him at the end a little bit. But, if Calipari's not going to crack, then I suppose the rest of us, and, the players aren't either. But now they're going into this hornet's nest at Missouri, where this is the first 3-1 SEC start they've ever had. And to win like they did last night against Florida, their fans are going to be crazy on Saturday. I mean, that might be the hardest game of all so far. So
this to me, what I'm saying here is not all on Calipari, because players have to be responsible for the way that they play too. But when the coach says, "I'm not going to crack," and it's 4 games into their conference schedule, I mean, that doesn't necessarily portray the steadiest locker room. And I don't blame him for saying that, because I think they're in their own feels a little bit about the way that this team has started. Now, look, Grant, you pay as close attention to women's basketball as anybody else in the media. The women's basketball team right now has the reputation of a team that may end up finishing dead last in the SEC with no money for NIL. They have a conference win on the road. This men's team is a completely different thing. They know the expectations at them. They're 0-4. So I think they're in their own thoughts a little bit. Yeah,
it's interesting. I went to Mike Neighbors' luncheon yesterday at the Catfish Hole, and they still have a good turnout. As he pointed out, when he went to the Final Four at Washington, they had about 8 fans that would go to something like that. And, the fans stay with them, and they did that big win at Auburn. But he thinks long-term help is on the way in the form of April the 7th. They're going to pass this revenue sharing things. It's going to pass. And then you right now, you talk about the wild, wild west. I mean, Tennessee has, I think, $2.6 billion to spend for women's basketball on the players. LSU 2.4. Arkansas got maybe 1% maybe of that, and that's why you saw 5 kids or so leave last year. I think Spencer may be getting $160,000 or something like that. These are just from reports, But like at Tennessee, well, that kind of money, most people aren't going to turn that down. It's interesting, he said that Izzy Higginbottom was the one player who never asked about money, never asked one thing about money, and here she is leading the country in number of points scored, I think, the last time I looked. So, help is on the way. I think it's gonna eventually get back to some sort more of some type of normalcy. But right now, you just have to, they're both taking their lumps, and I'm not sure how much better it's going to get.
Grant, we won't get to talk to you Monday night, big time game. Any way you see Ohio State fumbling the ball?
No, Matt. I mean, I maybe just because everybody thinks they're going to win and they're favored by 8.5 points or whatever. Notre Dame's had some magical moments in football and basketball through the years, as we know. So maybe we'll all be wrong, but I could think of 3 or 4 or 5 SEC teams that I would rather see play Ohio State in this game. And that's not to say that, that Notre Dame didn't deserve it or anything. It's just that I don't know that you would. I mean, would Georgia be an 8.5 point underdog to Ohio State? Would Alabama be? Would Mrs. Ole Miss be? What do you think, Matt?
No, I think I'm with you. I don't think Notre Dame is the second best team in the country. I think there's a handful of teams but they made it there. They lost their best offensive lineman, so that's going to hurt them. They had one of their running backs get hurt. That he's not 100%, but that's part of it. It's war of attrition. But when you're talking about having money to spend on a roster, Ohio State spent the most money. I mean, this is when it works. I mean, they went out, they got Chip Kelly. They went out and got Will Howard, who's all he's done is win. I think he won back-to-back Big 12s at Kansas State. So they went out and got Junkins, and you got two running backs. Then you got those. I mean, there's just so much talent on that Ohio. Downs, there's safety. He's going to be a first-round pick.
But Ole Miss spent a lot of money too. I don't know if it was quite to that level. I don't. Judging from what I saw from Ole Miss, they're incredibly talented. But I don't trust that if they were on the same field as Ohio State, that they'd be able to go out and play their best at all.
I'd have Ohio State over Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would too, to win the game. I just don't know that they'd be favored by 8.5, but maybe they would be. Who knows? But I think one thing Ohio State's done that's interesting this year is they've slowed the game down. If you read the story today about that, was an intentional thing to have a number of plays than a lot of teams. They even huddle. They huddle sometimes, and they talk about looking at Will Howard's eyes, in the huddle. Matt, you probably, you could talk about what the huddle means to a team maybe, but it's kind of old school. But they did this because they expected to play probably 16 games. I mean, that was the goal. And so if you play a long season like that, it reduced the number of plays and exposures to injury.
Well, I'm with it, especially having two running backs. If I'm a running back in today's game, I want a partner. You want a stable. You don't want to be. You can't take 27 carries. You want to split it up. Grant, when I look at the NFL playoffs, I'm going to ask you about one game. Now, I am a little nervous for the Eagles when they play the Rams. I think the Rams are going to give the Eagles problems. I know they met earlier in the year, and Saquon Barkley had 300 yards on him, and it wasn't a matter. But lots changed in the last 10 games. But the Bills-Ravens, man, what that's a coin flip game. Who wins this Bills-Ravens game?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know who's favored in the game. You know, what's the?
I think it's what I'm seeing on the ESPN. It's Pick'em game. It's Baltimore 1 right now. Yeah, it's a Pick'em.
I would probably have to go Baltimore on that one. You know, just the combination of quarterback and run. I mean, that's pretty strong. So, but I mean, I wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence in it. And I still like Detroit a lot. Philadelphia, because Hurts is a little bit still. I think he's about a half step slow. Do you see that, Matt? I mean, but they should still be tough. And of course, Kansas City's kind of the unknown quantity with all these close wins. I mean, they're a known quantity, obviously, but this year, are they really as good as some of their other years?
I still just believe it when I see it. If anybody goes into that stadium and wins a game, Grant, I think you might have been on the Dave. I'm probably sure you were on the Dave Van Horn Zoom at 10 o'clock 90 minutes ago. We are 30 days out from opening day against Washington State. Just give me a thought on Arkansas baseball. Anywhere you want to take it.
Well, I like the fact. I mean, this week we saw them jump to number 5 was at Division I D1 baseball, and I think they're 4 in perfect game recruiting assessment. You know, I think they're very well fixed again. And what I mean, the SEC is just as tough in baseball as it is in these other sports. Now, I know this is an all-time tough basketball league this year, but to have won that thing 3 times as Dave Van Horn has, I think they're going to be good. I mean, they're always good, you know, but I think maybe good to get to Omaha. Do you agree, Phil, or have you seen enough of them yet to have an opinion?
Well, I mean, I watched a few of the scrimmages in the fall. From what I know about this team, yes, I think this team has everything that it takes to get to the Final 8, maybe even a little better than the Final 8. But you know what? That'll be, I'd say we'd worry about that in June, but I know what this is like. As soon as the team starts winning games, it'd be like, all right, we'll see what happens in June. So I guess we'll have to see then.
BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball to NHL and UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here.